Good afternoon and Theruvan Saranai, Most Venerable Bulwala Ratana Siri Thero. Please let me know if you have difficulty in, can you test the sound? And I can test from this side if the sound is working properly. If you can speak into the microphone, we can test if the sound is working. Good afternoon and Theruvan Saranai, Most Venerable Bulwala Ratana Siri Thero.
Good afternoon.
If you have difficulty, yeah, I think everything's sorted out. Good afternoon once again. We welcome Most Venerable Bulwala Ratanasiri Thero from the Millava Dharma Vijayarama in Sri Lanka to start the third session of the Abhidhamma class in English. Over to you, Venerable Sir. Let us start. Disconnected from the meeting for a moment, so please bear with us until we get him online again. Reverend Bulwala Ratanasiri Thero just informed that he's having some network issues. So please be patient and we will wait for him to rejoin with us to continue the session. Thank you very much for your patience. Welcome back, Most Venerable Bulwala Rattanasiri Thero. And I apologize for everyone who's logged on to listen to our third class, the third class on Abhidhamma, and our topic today is on consciousness. So we have been waiting, and I welcome Most Venerable Sir to continue from the beginning.
Good afternoon. I welcome to the third Abhidamma class. We are dealing with ultimate phenomena, that is Abhidamma. Studying Abhidamma is studying ultimate phenomena. What are phenomena? Phenomena, we can't see them. They are invisible. They are like sort of energy, fundamental elements. So, studying Abhidhamma, we are studying those ultimate phenomena. All ultimate phenomena can be divided into 4 groups or 4 baskets. They are consciousness, mental factor, matter, and Nibbana. Those are the 4-fold of ultimate phenomena. Today, we'll study about the phenomena consciousness. Consciousness, you know, it also can't be seen. It's sort of energy or consciousness can be defined as attending to objects. It's a power of attending to objects. Consciousness is. There are 89 or 121 consciousnesses where the functions according to the grounds of the function of the consciousness, we can classify them into 4 sections: sense, sphere, fine material sphere, immaterial, and supramundane. Sense sphere, there are 54 consciousness. Fine material sphere, there are 15 consciousness. Immaterial, there are 12 consciousness. Supramundane, 8 or 40. Then total becomes 89 or 121. We'll take first the consciousness which behave in sense sphere. There are 40 there are 54 in number. We can classify them into four groups. Unwholesome, non-root, and beautiful. Unwholesome 12, non-root 18, and beautiful 24. Then total becomes 54. Now we'll take 12 unwholesome consciousness. You know, unwholesome, akusala. Unwholesome, akusala, when you engage in 10 fall of akusala karma, unwholesome activities, you create in your mind one of those 12 unwholesome. When you suppose, when you engage the unwholesome activity like stealing, when you stealing, then there create one of that unwholesome activity. This unwholesome consciousness can be divided into 3. Rooted in greed, 8. Rooted in hatred, 2. Rooted in delusion, 2. Altogether 12. Rooted in greed, hatred, delusion means greed, hatred, delusion are the mental factors that engage when you commit in any unwholesome activity. Regarding greed, involving with greed, there are 8 consciousnesses. They are called rooted in greed. When you kill an animal to have meat, to eat meat, there is greed. There is greed to eat meat. So that is becomes one of the rooted in greed consciousness. We have to understand how these consciousness engage or works or functions when the person doing unwholesome activities. Now we'll take 8 consciousness rooted in greed. Rooted in greed. Somanasa sahagata, ditthigata, sampayutta, asankarika. In Pali term, this is the one unwholesome consciousness rooted in greed. Somanasa sahagata means when you engage in the unwholesome activity, you do it in a pleasant mood, in happy, with joy. You do it, you like to do it. And you bear wrong views, wrong ideas. You think killing animal is not a sin. In that way, you bear wrong views. And you do that activity without any motivation or without compelling from other person. You do it. Then the consciousness arises. It is known as Somanassa Sahagata, Dittigata, Sampayutta, Asankarika. In English, we can say one consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, unprompted. That is the first consciousness rooted in greed. Now, when the person do his unwholesome activity, his attitudes may be different. Sometimes the person does the unwholesome activity with the motivation of the other person. He does not do it spontaneously. There is another person, he enforce him, compel him to do it. Suppose leader of a gang of robbers, the leader enforced or compelled his person to do it. In that way, he has to do it. So in that situations, there arise the second consciousness rooted in greed. It is called Somanassa Sahagata, Dittigata, Sampayutta, Sasankarika. Sasankarika means there is motivation. Some person is there to motivate him, enforce him, compel him. With that compelling, because of that compelling, he does it. In English term, we can known as that consciousness, one consciousness accompanied by joy, associated with wrong view, prompted. Unprompted becomes prompted. There is motivation, compelling. That is the second consciousness arise due to the condition or the situation. Then condition, it is known as in Pali, Somanassa Sahagata, Dittigata, Vippayutta, Asankarika. Somanassa Sahagata, Dittigata, Vippayutta, Asankarika. Now, in this condition, in this situation, that person does not have wrong views, misconceptions. He knows killing animal or stealing is an unwholesome activity. It gathers sin. It gathers bad effects. He knows it. Knowing, but he commits that unwholesome activity. Then he does it with joy and without motivation or spontaneously. There arises one consciousness accompanied by joy, dissociated from wrong views. Dissociated, former ones associating, here dissociated from wrong views, unprompted. Now you can understand in that way the fourth one also. Fourth situation, when you come to the fourth situation, then it is prompted. Former one unprompted, this one prompted. He does it with motivation with the person. Then arises the fourth one, Somanasa Sahagata, Ditthigata, Nipayutta, Sasankarika, fourth one. One consciousness accompanied by joy, and this associating from wrong views prompted. Then we'll come to the fifth one, that is the mood has been changed. Upekka sahagata, ditthigata, sampayutta, asankarika. Now the mood has been changed. He did those unwholesome activities in happy mood, with joy. But now this person engaged that activity with equanimity. There is either happy or sad, equanimity. Then he bear wrong views, misconceptions, wrong ideas. He believe committing unwholesome deeds, not a sin, not a bad thing. It doesn't bring his bad result. That's how he believed. Mithya ditti, wrong view. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with wrong view. Unprompted. He does that task or activity without any motivation, spontaneously. He does it. Then we'll come to the sixth one, that is one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with wrong view prompted. There is no enjoy or happiness, but equanimity associated with wrong views, then prompted. There is motivation to do it, prompted. Then the seventh one, upekka sahagata, ditthigata, vipayutta, asankarika. Seventh one. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity, dissociated from wrong views, unprompted. Sixth one associated, the seventh one dissociated from wrong views. He knows the committing unwholesome activity is a sin. It gives a bad effect or event. Unprompted, there is motivation, enforcement. Then the last one, upekka sahagata, ditthigata, vipayutta, sasankarika. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity, dissociated from wrong view, prompted. Then the person engaged in that unwholesome activity accompanied by equanimity and dissociated from wrong views. He knows the unwholesome activities. What are the results that comes from doing unwholesome activities? Prompted, there is motivation. There is motivation. So you can understand how the consciousness arises. Consciousness arises according to the situation. So this consciousness becomes common, later becomes common for the doer. Now we'll take another two consciousness. The two consciousness rooted in hatred. Rooted in hatred. Domanassa sahagata, ditthigata, sampayutta asankarika. Domanassa sahagata, ditthigata, sampayutta, sasankarika. Those are the two consciousnesses rooted in hatred. Hatred is there as the mental factor. So when you hate, when you do some harm to your enemy or any person having hatred, in that case, such consciousness arises. Such consciousness is arised. One consciousness accompanied by displeasure, domanassa. He does not have happiness. He does that harm in sad, in displeasure. So one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion. Yes, there is again aversion, hatred, unprompted. There is no any motivation. Promptly he do it. Spontaneously he do it, that harm activity. Second one consciousness accompanied by displeasure, again associate with aversion. There is anger, aversion, and prompted. So the person does that harm to his enemy with aversion, and prompted without any motivation or enforcement. Yes, prompted. There is motivation. There is motivation. There is enforcement. There is compelling to do it. Then now we'll come to the another two, rooted in delusion. The two consciousness rooted in delusion. That is, their equanimity is there. There is no either happy or sad. There is again equanimity. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with doubt. Associated with doubt. There is misunderstanding in him, doubt. Doubt means this person has doubt in 8 places. All Buddhi kankati, Dhammi kankati, Sanghi kankati. Such persons suspect Buddha and his Dhamm and his Sangha. Then he suspect the former birth. He suspect the rebirth. He suspect both former birth and his rebirth. He suspect the doctrine of dependent origination, and he suspect perceptions like Panchasila, 5 precepts. He suspect because the person is in delusion. He is ignorance. He has no real knowledge about the matter. So such person do unwholesome activities rooted in delusion because of his doubt or delusion or because of his ignorance. So one consciousness accompanied by equanimity, because he is ignorant, so he does not have happy mood or unpleasant mood, he bears equanimity. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with doubt. Then the second one, one consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restlessness. Then the person, because of his delusion, he can't have a quiet or calm mind because of his ignorance or because of his misunderstanding. He is in restlessness. In restlessness, he does wholesome activities due to his restlessness that is rooted in delusion. One consciousness accompanied by equanimity associated with restlessness. So these 12 unwholesome consciousnesses, when the person engages in unwholesome activity in tenfold of unwholesome activities, killing beings, killing animals, then engaging in sensual misconduct and lying, and saying unbelievable words and using words to separate friends. Then harsh word, then nonsense. Then when you have aversion in that way, when you engage in the tenfold of unwholesome activities, then you arise one of or three of those mental factors: greed, hatred, and delusions. So these 12 unwholesome consciousness can be divided into two: rooted in greed, rooted in hatred, and rooted in delusion. Then we'll come to that other parts. Now you know 54 consciousness divided into three class or groups: unwholesome, wholesome, unwholesome, and rootless and beautiful. Unwholesome, there are 12, you know. The rootless, there are 18, and beautiful, there are 24. Now we'll take these 18 rootless consciousnesses. They are also classified into three groups: unwholesome resultant, 7, wholesome resultant 8, functional 3, altogether 18. Why these 18 consciousness are known as rootless? Rootless because there are no greed, hatred, or delusion. They are the roots. They are the roots for unwholesome activity. And there are roots for wholesome activities also. They are known as non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. So this consciousness, they do not have the roots. So they are known as rootless consciousness. This consciousness appear or arise without root. Without root means greed, without hatred, without delusion. This consciousness arises as the result of karma, your former karma, as a result of karma done by you in your former birth. Now we'll try to understand how this consciousness arise. Now, when you think of, when you looking at a picture, when you hear sound, when you sense, smell, when you taste, when you contact your body, then such consciousness arises. How can you look at the picture outside? Because you have a healthy eye. You hear sound clearly because you have healthy ear. In that way, as a result of that, you have healthy 5 faculties. You can engage, or you can live, or you can engage, or you can respond to the objects outside. Now, when you think of the blind man or deaf one, they can't see or they can't hear. Why? They don't have healthy eye or ear, so they can't hear or see. They don't have vision. Why is that? Because at the consequence of his former karma, as a result of karma. So this consciousness arises as a result of karma. This consciousness now take the 7 unwholesome resultant consciousness. There are 7 in number. Unwholesome resultant consciousness. Now this consciousness arises because of the unwholesome activities you did in your former birth or this birth. This consciousness arises due to the at the consciousness of your former karma. Now, take the first one. I consciousness accompanied by equanimity. In Pali it says, upekka sahagata chakku viññāni. Upekka sahagata chakku viññāni. I consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Then when you look at a picture, there is a tiny part in your eye, that is sensitive part in your eye. That sensitive part called in Pali prasad. Then that sensitive part in your eye contact with the object from outside. Contact in the sense that the object doesn't come into your eyes. Object is there outside. Your sensitive part in eye contact it, and the mind engage, and the consciousness arise there, and that is called I consciousness. It is called I consciousness. The picture, the concept of the picture, there again, there is formed the concept of the picture in that sensitive part in your eye. Then you can see that picture object, and you can have some ideas. Then you have to understand what is the function of this task. When you look at a picture or object, soon you arise the I consciousness. Then at the same time, the contact is there, happens in your mind also. Two tasks happens in same time. Contacting the objects in your sensitive part in the eye, then in your mind inside. Both actions happens in the same time. For example, when a bird flies from space and hide in a tree, then what happened? The tree wave here and there, and the shadow of the bird touch the ground. Then the two actions happens in the same time. In that way, contacting an object with your faculty, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, then these two actions happens at the same time. So eye consciousness accompanied by equanimity. You see that object and you sense it, and you form some ideas about that. In that way, sometimes you happen to look at unpleasant object because this is the result of unwholesome activities. So you have to hear unpleasant sound. You don't like to hear it, but you are there to hear it. In that way, nose, tongue, body, in that way we can understand it. Ear consciousness accompanied by equanimity, nose consciousness accompanied by equanimity, tongue conscious accompanied by equanimity. So these consciousness always accompanied by equanimity, because you don't want to do that task. You don't want to look at that picture, but you have to look at. So there is equanimity. Then the fifth one, body consciousness accompanied by pain. Pain. Body consciousness accompanied by pain. Your body, your skin, then senses a pain. Because why? The consciousness arises in the consequence of, as the consequence of unwholesome that you did in your former birth, maybe. Then you sometimes, you know, some people are there. They always suffering from some sort of pain. They can't get rid of it. That happens due to the result of karma done by him. The sixth one, receiving consciousness accompanied by equanimity. That is, when you take an object to the threshold of your five faculties, you have to receive it. Then receive, you have to receive that object into the threshold of your faculties. That is receiving. So receiving the object, there arise the consciousness. It is called receiving consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Everything happens due to karma. Then the seventh one, investigating. You investigate consciousness. You think of what is this object, or you investigate. When you investigate the object, there arise consciousness. It is also with equanimity. So investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. So in that way, there are 7 unwholesome resultant consciousness. Then there are 8 wholesome resultant consciousness. That comes due to the result of that you committed the wholesome activities, like alms giving, donation, and ethical conduct, morality, developing your morality, and meditation. There are 10 fold of meritorious activities. In Pali we say Dasa Punya Kriya. Dasa Punya Kriya. Dana, donation, Sila, ethical conduct or developing morality, Sila, Bhavana, meditation. Then invoking merit, your relations or friends invoking merits and receiving merit, and having Dhammadesana sermons, delivering sermons, Dhammadesana, hearing Dhammadesana, listening to Dhammadesana. Then doing some activities in the temples or in the shrine room. When you go to the temple, you sweep the temple and you clear the temple, Bodhi and Dagaba and shrine room. You sweep, then you wash and do clean the place. Veyavatta or in Pali. In that activities, you gather so many merit. So as a result of doing those wholesome activities in your former birth, there arise those 8 wholesome resultant consciousness. First one, I consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Because you have good eye, healthy eye, and you can look at pictures outside, eye consciousness accompanied by equanimity. As a result of wholesome, you may have to look at the present objects. When you go to a sacred place and you see the spiritual values of that sacred place with your eye, or you hear Dhammadesana, a pleasant Dhammadesana. You have to hear them. In that way, eye consciousness accompanied by equanimity, ear consciousness accompanied by equanimity, then nose consciousness accompanied by equanimity. In Pali terms, upekka sahagata chakku viññāni, upekka sahagata ear, then nose, upekka sahagata gahana viññāni, upekka sahagata jivha viññāni, sukha sahagata kaya viññāni. The second one, ear consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Upekka sahagata sota viññāni. Upekka sahagata sota viññāni. Ear consciousness accompanied by equanimity. You hear the pleasant sound because of the wholesome activities done by you in your former birth. Ear consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Nose consciousness accompanied by equanimity. You sense a pleasant smell. Then tongue consciousness accompanied by equanimity. You have to eat tasty food because of your karma, wholesome karma. You have tasty food to eat, tongue consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Then body consciousness accompanied by pleasure. The former one accompanied by pain, here accompanied by pleasure. Former 7 unwholesome, they arise due to the consequence of unwholesome. Here this 8 arise due to the wholesome, then the body pain, you by pleasure. There is no pain, no suffering, pleasure. You have pleasure sense, body consciousness accompanied by pleasure. Then receiving consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Same. Receiving consciousness accompanied by equanimity. You take objects into the threshold of your faculties, that is receiving. When you receive the objects, they arise, that consciousness, this receiving consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Then the received object, you investigate about that object. When you investigate what kind of object, in that way you investigate. When you investigate that object, there arise investigating consciousness accompanied by joy. This joy, you have pleasure. Then the 8th one, investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. When you investigate, sometime you may arise the consciousness with equanimity. So both joy and equanimity. There are two consciousnesses. Then we'll come to the third class, the three rootless functional consciousnesses. The three rootless functional consciousnesses. Functional means they are not either wholesome or unwholesome. Intermediate state, functional, they don't have power of karma in that consciousness. Five sense law advert in consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Upekka sahagata panchadvara vajjana. Panchadvara vajjana. Five sense law adverting consciousness accompanied by equanimity. You know, five sense, you know, when the person adverting, thinking about that, he's thinking about that five sense. Five sense, though adverting consciousness, accompanied by equanimity. When the object comes into his faculties, he uses his five senses and he thinks adverting, recalling or adverting. The second one, in such case, the person adverting the object through his sense from his mind. Manodvara vajjana chitta. One panchadvara vajjana chitta. Second one manodvara vajjana chitta. You know, when you contact with an object through your faculties, contact comes at the same time to the threshold of the faculty and also to the mind inside. This is the mind. So the contact that as soon as the object contact in the mind, the person adverts it. That is, in that case, there arise a mind or adverting consciousness. Third one, smile producing consciousness accompanied by joy. Then smile producing consciousness means he in that consciousness he produces small smile with joy. In that sense, he arrives that consciousness. So these functional consciousness arise in the noble person like Arahant, Buddha, Arahant. Because such consciousness, this functional consciousness, do not take power of karmic, no power of karma. They don't produce karma. Sometimes you may have heard, the Buddha smiles at sometimes. This smile produced in consciousness accompanied by joy. Or in that situations, Buddha has that smile produced in consciousness accompanied by joy. That's how the rootless functional consciousness functions in the noble ones, Arahant. Because Arahant also live in the society. They contact with other persons. They communicate. They work. They do their religious tasks. So they have consciousness. But those consciousness do not take the power of karma. So in that case, such noble persons creates that consciousness, functional consciousness. Now I think the time is up. Shall I stop the lesson?
We can continue. We can continue the rest of this theme on consciousness at the beginning of the next class, Reverend. We will take a question also if anybody has questions.
Yeah.
We have 6 minutes to end our session. Once again, I apologize for the inconvenience at the beginning, and thank you very much for your patience. I saw somebody patiently waiting in Zoom as well for us to start. So thank you. If you have any questions on today's topic on consciousness or consciousnesses, please ask your question now. You may ask your question by unmuting your microphone, or you can type it into chat in Zoom, or you can even send it on the live chat on YouTube. So there is one question we thought of that we would like to present in the session as well. So I'll ask the question, Reverend Sir. The question is whether Brahmas can experience consciousness of human beings.
Yes. Brahmas, they live in Brahmaloka. They also can experience the consciousness that arises in the human beings. To arise any kind of consciousness, there must be object. There must be object to be contacted. So the Brahma, if the Brahmas, they live in Brahmaloka, immaterial spheres, they live. If they happen to contact with the object in the human world, they can create consciousness, and as a result of that, they are degraded. They come to the lower state because of that. In Abhidhamma Sutta, we have such a story. In Aganya Sutta, Buddha explained, after the disaster of the world, this world destroyed naturally up to Abhasara Brahmaloka. Then the person, Brahmas live in Abhasara Brahmaloka. Some Brahmas, they loiter here and there in this space. They saw the earth, only earth was there, no sun, no moon, no stars, no human beings, only earth floating in water, ocean. It's like buttermilk. So one of the Brahmas from Abhasara, Brahmaloka, they happened to see that object in the human world. He came and he took some soil with his finger and he tasted. Then he aroused consciousness that the human being has with craving, with greed. Because that soil at that time is very tasty as buttermilk. Very tasty. Then the Brahma, he began to eat soil. Then other Brahma also saw that. They began to eat soil and they ultimately becomes human beings. That is the beginning of the human being in the world after the disaster, destructions of the world. So the Brahmas also can experience the consciousness in human beings. On the other hand, human being also can experience that the consciousness that the Brahmas has. When you take meditation, you develop absorption jhanas, pratama jhana, dutiya jhana, tatiya jhana, chatutta jhana, that means panchama jhana, vitakka vichara piti sukha ekaggata. In that way, you developed your absorptions in your meditation. So in meditation, there you arrive that consciousness will be discussed later in our Abhidhamma lessons. That consciousness belong to Brahmas. But developing the mind and meditation, training your mind in meditation, you can experience those consciousness that the Brahmas has.
Thank you very much, Reverend Sir, and much merit to you for another class on Abhidhamma. So we will see you all next Saturday, same time. Thank you so much for coming in and listening to us. And if you do have any questions, you can still send them our way. If you scan the QR code on your phone, onto your phone that it appears on the screen here, you will be directed to a Google form where you can type in your question and send it to us, or you can write down your question and wait to ask in our next class. So until then, I wish everybody to be safe and well, and good evening to everyone. Much merit to you, and thank you very much, Most Venerable Bulwala Ratana Siristhero, for another session on Abhidhamma today. Thank you. Teruvan Saranai.
I wish you the blessing of the triple gems for conducting the class well and listening you responsively. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation.
So we will end the meeting now, Reverend Sir.
Okay.